Ladies and gentlemen, this is Adam Cole, baby. And you're listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
When they're not covering the sports world, they're talking about the world of professional wrestling.
It's Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Now, with Justin Simmons, here's Stu Myrick.
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn. Stu Myrick, Justin the Smash Simmons.
It's fight week, baby.
It's fight week for you, yes.
Yes.
That's right.
I mean, I'm not fighting.
I had
but
F1 week.
I'm calling fights.
I had F1 week last week. So, me and two-time Oscar-winning actor Michael Douglas.
I'm more impressed with John Oates because I'm a Hall & Oates
Well, John
fan.
Oates that was huge for me. That was my very first concert. And I interviewed him last year at that very spot. So it was good to see John Oates again. We'll talk about that later because we want to get to the, I guess, best way to put it is the hilarity that has been the WWE in the last, 6-7 days since Saudi Arabia. And to help us laugh at it and dissect it and everything, it's our good friend from the Sporting News, Brian Fritz. How are you, man?
I'm doing good. I mean, I think the big question that we need to know, though, is are you more of a Manhunter guy or Private Eyes?
I already had the answer before he did.
Excuse me.
Man-Eater. I was a big Private Eyes fan. I mean, I like all their music.
I think
you celebrate the entire catalog.
I do.
I
will have to say this. If you do like Hall & Oates, I recommend The Bird and the Bee. They do like a whole tribute to them, and
yes.
It's well done. But I would have to say It Isn't So is my go-to.
That was a good one. So when I saw them in concert, they were promoting Big Bam Boom, and it was 1985, 86.
The year of the IROC.
In Shreveport, Louisiana. Myself, my buddy Jack Arp, classmate of mine, we went to the Hirsch Coliseum. I don't think it's even called the Hirsch Coliseum anymore, in Shreveport, and saw them till Tuesday opened up for them.
Till Tuesday, huh?
Till Tuesday, yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
That was an interesting show. So
you have one, Brian? I have to just know if you got a Hall & Oates jam that you like.
I like Private Eyes a lot. I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, song that you get to clap to as well. I mean, get
that's
the beat
true.
going. Come on.
That's true. That's true. So, all right. So let's get into this thing. Let's talk about the event first.
Well, I was going to say, talking about Private Eyes. Yeah, I think we could use some more investigating on this whole matter, couldn't we?
We really could, because there's so many stories coming out. Let's talk about the event first. Talk about Crown Jewel. In the couple of the highlights. First of all, Brock Lesnar, Cain Velasquez. So they pumped this up. WWE pays Cain Velasquez a boatload of money to have him join their roster. They hotshot him to this world title match in Saudi, only have him tap out in 2 minutes to the Kimura lock. I mean, really, that's what we're doing now? We've basically reduced him to this was Brock getting his revenge for losing the UFC title 10 years ago?
It was a really weird decision to put together this match if that's all they were going to do. And, I mean, there's been stories that the match is so quickly because Velasquez has been dealing with a knee injury. But if that's the case, then why would you put him in this position? I mean, I'm not saying that Brock shouldn't have gone over, but they did not do Cain any favors. And then you got this guy who's brand new to your promotion, and you have him lose this quickly. He taps out. They don't even mention him again on Raw the next night, or a couple of nights later. So it was just a really strange thing to put Cain out there. I mean, and the other thing is too, I mean, for Cain, I believe this is only his third wrestling match he's ever done. It's obviously his first in WWE, but it's also his first one-on-one match.
Right.
And it's a totally different style than the two prior matches he had done, which were down in Mexico, part of, 6-man tag team matches. It's a different style, and he's showing off his athleticism. And to bring him up here and put him in this weird position of, kind of hot-shotting him in this match, and it's a totally different style, and having him lose in 2 minutes when, I mean, you've signed this guy apparently to a multi-year deal. You've made an investment to have this guy, and I'm sure they're going to think that, well, everybody has short memories, but it's still not. It doesn't seem like a smart decision to do on the surface, at least.
I think you just hit the nail on the head right there, though, Brian. Is that it is true, though. People do have short memories. Right now, after this whole fallout, and we're not even talking about what happened outside of the ring, but one of the most important things that did happen over there was that The Fiend ended up coming away with the WWE title, or the Universal title, rather. And just, wasn't it like a month ago where there was like a no disqualification, and then on Monday night they like no contest, and then people didn't even mention it the next night, and now I couldn't even remember telling you about this match. Hell in the Cell.
That's something that WWE does,
and it works though.
That's a Vince McMahon philosophy, though. I mean, as much as I think a lot of fans care about the details and do remember things, Vince McMahon has a habit of saying nobody remembers that. I mean, I know people that have been on the writing team there that have said, hey, we will bring things up to Vince and say, hey, don't forget about this or that just happened a couple weeks ago. And his reaction will be like, nobody remembers that. And the thing is, fans do remember it. It's just, I think a lot of fans that watch WWE have been conditioned to say, I don't like that they're doing that. I remember it, but it's just like, this is what they do.
It is what it is because it's WWE. Let me ask you this, and this is the problem I have. So, okay, you want to destroy Kane like that. You're paying him the money, whatever. He's going to go have his knee surgery, hopefully come back. We'll see what happens. It should have been a WrestleMania match, but now you've got Bray Wyatt portraying a supernatural character, someone that has taken multiple chair shots, stomps, ladder shots, tables in Hell in a Cell, and he still got up and gave Seth the mandible claw. Then you turn around in Saudi Arabia, almost the same thing where he's, again, multiple chair shots. He must have hit like 43 stomps in that match. And then you finally have him, you have Seth throw him into this little, kind of a blocked off area. It was blocked off by a bunch of travel cases. Why the travel cases were out there, I'll never know. You have the sparks flying and everything. All of a sudden, Bray Wyatt pops up, mandible claw, pins him. You've put the title on him. Now what? Who beats him?
Well, that's the thing, because now it's like you need a baby face to kind of rise to the occasion, because I don't know exactly how you look at it when it comes to The Fiend. Like, a lot of people like him, but they want to try to book him as a heel or like this supernatural heel. I think there's a couple of problems that have gone on in that match. First and foremost is that not only like who is going to beat him, but also you mentioned how many curb stomps he took. Just like, okay, so what's it going to take for somebody to beat him? And also, do I really care about the curb stomp anymore? I understand that it's Bray Wyatt, and it's supposed to be that he's special, in the way that he can withstand punishment. But then I'm watching, Seth Rollins wrestle on Monday night. I'm sitting there going, okay, if he gets a stomp, like, should anybody really stay down for that? Because we've already seen this move get done over and over and over again to one guy, and the guy never gets pinned off of it.
Well, and that's what WWE does. They destroy everybody's finishers to the point where it's not a finisher anymore. It's just it's just a move, and if they pin him because of it, it's because of luck of the draw.
Right, or it's almost like, hey, let's have somebody kick out of the finisher, which happens everywhere. But in WWE, it's this weird formula that they do of like, you kicked out of the finisher, quickly, let's move the camera, let's get a reaction of somebody with their mouth wide open and say, oh, and then the other reaction is, hey, let's get the person that gave the move and didn't get the pin, let's get their reaction as they have to wipe their hair back and look at the heart camera, bug their eyes out of their head and go, oh my God, I can't believe they get kicked out of that,
Well, at least you know the tropes by heart. Other people do.
It's not that difficult. It's done time and time and time again. It's cookie cutter.
But I have an important question in the sense of booking. You're talking about Bray Wyatt and his invincibility, supposedly, right? Does anybody recall when The Undertaker was no longer invincible. I do not know this moment. I'm too young. I just know that it had to have happened at some point, right? Because right now, the way that we talk about Bray Wyatt, I feel if there was people like us back then doing what we're doing now, we would be saying the same thing about The Undertaker.
My
At this
reaction
moment.
to that, though, would be it's a different time. It's a different era.
Right.
And I think you have to read the era that you're in. At the time when The Undertaker debuted.
But Supernatural Dead Man
sounds
sounds silly regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I get that. But in 1990, when they debuted, the way you thought of WWE was different than what you think of now.
So wait.
And you're a little more accustomed to, for lack of a better term, cartoon figures, because that's what the Fiend basically is. This is almost like they've turned the clock back to late 80s, early 90s WWE.
May I remind you, gentlemen, that there is a gentleman out there who makes a good living in this industry by having people suplexed by his genitals.
There is that, but I mean that's almost like an inside joke.
Yeah,
kind of a thing.
You're not going to put a world title on Joey Ryan.
Right,
but the fans have to play along.
Supernatural in this day and age.
Do.
I mean, for the most part, I mean, there are things that are comedy related, and there are like that inside joke of a Joey Ryan. But for the most part, I think a lot of people want to see more reality based when it comes to your wrestlers and your storylines. That's kind of where we're at right now when it comes to the business. And WWE is still taking not a hard turn, but they're still turning against that in some different ways. And that in just the way that they do their storylines overall, I think it's not just, hey, we've got this supernatural character, but I just think that, the way that they do their promos, just kind of the way that they put their television together, the way that they book their characters, the way they do their storylines, so much of it is not in what people really want right now. It's not veering towards that direction. It's like, we know what we want to do, whether that's veering into, what the audience really wants to do. And I think there really is a distinction between the two. It doesn't look like necessarily it's that big of a deal, but it's enough to where, people are not viewing that show the way that they were even a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think you're right. Talking with Brian Fritz from the Sporting News. Follow him on Twitter at Brian Fritz. So, in the rest of the card, no other titles changed hands. The OC won the World Cup, even though they got beat by the Viking Raiders that week on Raw, but that's okay. You had Team Hogan defeating Team Flair.
Did you have skin on it or something?
Huh?
You had some skin on that match or what?
Which match?
The tag team match? Did you
No.
have a bet on War Machine or what?
No.
I'm sorry, you sounded really disappointed about that.
It was what it was, So all that. So now they decide to try to leave Saudi Arabia. The plane is delayed. They're delayed for almost up to 24 hours. Now apparently Vince got out early. Brock and Paul Heyman and Hogan and Flair got out early. A few others got out early. But the rest of the roster that went over there was stuck. And we heard officially it was because of mechanical issues. However, there have been a myriad of stories, and we'll mention him, Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer, notably, talking about, there was something about, Vince was upset because they hadn't received payment from the previous event in Saudi Arabia. I think that was Super Showdown in June. The company had not received the $60 million for that one, which apparently magically appeared about 2 hours before they went live with Crown Jewel. How much of what you have heard gels with what you know, and I'm sure the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I would agree, because I'm not doubting that there may have been mechanical issues, but it feels like there's a lot more that went on to this. And I think some of the things that really stand out to me are, while some people will sit there and say, well, Vince left his guys stranded because Vince left the country before, he got out of Dodge and he left the wrestlers behind. Now, there are some things when it comes to timeline where some people will say, like, they didn't know about the issues with the talents playing until Vince was already out of the country. He had already left. So I don't know if that's the case, and I don't really believe that Vince would purposely leave his talent in a predicament like this, or not one that as serious as this potentially could have been. And we don't even really know how serious it was because, yeah, sure, maybe there was a mechanical issue, but it sure feels like something more was going on there. And regardless, I think a lot of talent, believe that something else was going on beyond this, where I don't think anybody was, in fear of their lives. But at the same time, to be stuck in another country, especially Saudi Arabia, and you don't know exactly what's going on, and it's for 24 hours or however long it was, and you're not getting many answers to it, and everybody's being coy and giving, their different perspectives on what's going on, you're not going to feel good about it. I mean, even if you're stranded there and you don't feel like there's any shenanigans that are going on there, but you're stuck there for like an extra day, that's bad enough. Because of where you are, how long the flight is going to be. Even from then, you're just going to New York. So what brand are you on? Are you going to go home, or are you going to stay in New York to get ready for Raw? Even some of the people that went to New York and said, okay, now I'm going to go back home, even though I know I'm only going to be home for a day and I got to go back after Raw. Some of them even had flight issues once they got to New York because their flights were delayed, or they missed their connecting flights. So there was issues all around, but I think one of the biggest takeaways is wherever that truth that lies in between is, I think a lot of the talent were very upset about the way this all went down, from not only being stranded and the frustrations that come with that and being stuck on the road even longer, but then something else happened and they feel like they were out of the loop when they would like somebody to give them an honest answer of what's going on.
Yeah, it's very odd and very I don't want to say suspicious, but there's just something weird about it. And as we said, I think it's something in the middle, and we'll probably never know the full truth. Although it is kind of ironic that it seemed right after that WWE issued a press release saying they're going to expand their partnership with the Saudi General Entertainment Authority, and they're going to include a second large-scale event each year through the rest of their 10-year agreement, which expires in 2027. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've had 2 events in 2019, and I think they had 2 events in 2018. So, yes. What was this? Was this just to help stop the drop of the stock price, or am I missing something?
I think the original agreement that they made, which was actually through 2027, was for one event a year. And it's just that each year they've added an event. And I think this was just basically the official announcement that they will be doing 2 events per year through 2027. And I think they announced it so quickly is because the stock was dropping, and it has been dropping very quickly over the last couple of weeks. So they wanted to put a Band-Aid on that to say, hey, all this money that Saudi Arabia is paying us, even though we won't tell you exactly how much money it is for each event, but you just know that it's a lot of money that we're going to be getting 2 of those checks per year, guaranteed for another 8 years going forward.
But my question now is, what talent agrees to go on this flight?
Yeah,
that's a very good question, because I think there's a lot of guys that, even if they do believe the mechanical issues, or they believe whatever the truth is going to be, I think there's a lot of people that feel very uncomfortable about it, and they're going to sit there and go, I don't want to go to Saudi Arabia. I don't feel good about this. Unless WWE says, well, what if I pay you X amount? And they can afford to do it because of the amount of money that they make off this event. Now, some people, will then say, okay, if you pay me this amount, I will go. But there's going to be some people that are just like, you know what, you can't pay me enough. And I don't even know if WWE really wants to, pay people, get into the practice of paying more people for these events. Obviously, they do for some of your bigger stars to be on these shows. I mean, I'm sure Shawn Michaels got paid very well. Hulk Hogan has been paid very well. Undertaker gets paid very well. I'm sure Brock does as well. But when it comes to just guys that are their everyday workforce. I don't know if they really want to give them a lot more money and just say, hey, you can go there or you don't have to go there. We'll give you that choice. But what's going to happen if there's a lot more people that say, hey, I don't feel comfortable about going to that country, and then we just had this whole incident that just happened, and I don't want to go. What if there's 20, 30 talents that say, I don't want to go?
Exactly.
That's going to be the big question. I think the next one is probably in June next year. That's going to be a big question of who is going to be on that card, who's going to agree to go.
I mean,
is it going to be another legend heavy, card with, Triple H and Shawn Michaels and all the old timers?
Would they put a lot of NXT talent on there in that case? And by the way, would Saudi Arabia and the Prince be happy if they put NXT talent on there, because they're probably not as familiar with those talents?
No, you're absolutely right. Speaking of NXT, give us your thoughts on, because of the travel delays, they had to pretty much scrap whatever they had planned for SmackDown. It turned into an NXT takeover. I'm calling it NXT Takeover SmackDown. And then subsequently on Monday Night Raw with Adam Cole making another appearance and several of the NXT talents. What did you make of that? How much is that going to help NXT's Wednesday night show on USA?
Yeah, and can we kind of agree that in a roundabout way, this was like the best thing that happened to WWE, because we got this show and their names have been the headlines all week.
Yeah.
I totally agree, especially when it came to SmackDown, because they were booking that show on very short notice. It sounds like the NXT talent that did work that show didn't even arrive to the building until minutes before the show went on the air, which is why they started off with the segment with Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman, and they kind of dragged it out a little bit. So, but you know what? They made the best of the situation, and it turned out to be a really hot show. I thought NXT looked really, really strong with the way that they were dominating all night long, whether it was Shayna Baszler going out there and beating up Sasha Banks and beating up Bayley, and then Adam Cole beating Daniel Bryan in a really, really strong main event. The crowd was hot for that show as well. For Monday night, they didn't do as good of a job, I think, when it came to emphasizing NXT, because they didn't have a clean win, in the main event. That crowd was a little bit more dead.
Yeah, what was up with the crowd? I expected a Long Island crowd to be eating up the NXT versus Seth Rollins matchup.
Yeah, that was very strange. I mean, that crowd was just kind of dead all night. You would think, like, okay, well, we should get Adam Cole against Seth Rollins in the main event. And the crowd wasn't jacked for that as well. And I think some of that is I'm really starting to think that the shine is really coming off Seth Rollins. And I think there's a lot of people that, for whatever reason, are tired of Seth, whether it's – and I think some of it's just the way that he's been booked.
Yeah.
He hasn't been booked as the strongest guy necessarily. I think people get tired of some of the promos that he does. I mean, it's just kind of a culmination of different things. And then for some people, it's just the way that he speaks out about fans on social media. And I think it's a culmination of different things. Now, when it comes to, Wednesday night, I mean, in the NXT TV show, we got to see what they're going to do here. I would think that show has to benefit from those guys being on Raw and SmackDown. And there's going to be some people that say, hey, normally I don't watch the show, but I saw these guys on, those other two shows, and I'm interested in seeing more of them. And I mean, that would be the goal, you would think. And we'll see if that's exactly what happens here, or if it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, especially if we can see Keith Lee doing those moonsaults off the top rope. That'd be
not even off the top rope. He went up and over it.
Matt Riddle even at Raw? I mean, Matt Riddle's like one of the top NXT stars, and he wasn't even showcased.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
I really thought, whether they do the match or not, okay, I really thought when Brock Lesnar was out there for that opening segment that Matt Riddle was going to come out there and challenge him.
I think he
was going to do something.
Yeah, I think a lot of people expected that because of Matt Riddle's UFC background. Made sense. Have him come out there, at least do something. But no, they decided to just go with the Ray thing. And then
Riddle has been outspoken for years now, saying, I want to face Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're going to do the match necessarily. But, I mean, to at least tease it or do something. Now they had other plans for Brock, and they're doing a program with Rey Mysterio, and I get that. And that's why maybe you just tease it. But, I mean, just the overall way they used NXT on Raw was different. than the way that they did on SmackDown. On SmackDown, they said, we're going to let these guys just have their way. But you know what? I still wonder, even though that show's now on Fox and it's, got a bigger audience now because of that platform and everything, but it's like they still look at it in a lot of ways as Raw is the flagship. It's always going to be the most important brand.
Well,
and that's the way we saw with the booking, I thought.
Well, if you're listening to the commentary, what's the new guy's name again now?
Dio Madden?
Oh,
no.
You're talking about Vic.
Oh, Vic Joseph.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
he even said
nuts
that.
Talking about we're the flagship, we're
Yeah.
the red brand.
Yeah.
He put a real
You're
emphasis on it last night. So when you brought that up, that was the first thing that came to mind. I'm like, oh, okay. So, yeah, you have Brock again. I guess you are the flagship.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess
Well,
so.
and that's the other thing, too. Like, I know that they're saying, like, oh, we got Brock over here, but, I mean, we got to see exactly what's going to happen with that from a standpoint of, does that mean Bray is definitely on SmackDown and that where that championship is going to be? Because, the Universal Championship was on Raw and the WWE Championship was on SmackDown. So are you swapping that? What are you doing with Brock? Are Fox executives going to be happy if you take Brock off their brand? I mean, there's so many different, masters that WWE has to serve.
A lot of questions. We gotta see what develops. So tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick time out. We're going to keep Brian on for the podcast only segment. We're going to do that next. So more from Brian Fritz from the Sporting News, talking WWE and some other stuff in wrestling. Coming up next on Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Ladies and gentlemen, just in case you're deaf, dumb, blind, stupid, or let's just assume poor, this is MJF, and you're listening to the Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling, Stu Myrick, Justin the Smash Simmons podcast only. And we decided to keep Brian Fritz on. We had to end the first segment early because of, the whole commercial thing with the horn. We got to, got to help him make money, whatever. But there's just some more stuff we got to talk about, and Brian's so good at this. So something you brought up during the first on-air segment about Seth Rollins, and let's talk about that for a second, because I am in full agreement, and I think Justin is as well. That
have been for a while.
Seth Rollins has, I don't know if he's lost all of his shine, but he's getting dangerously close into Roman Reigns pre-leukemia territory, where nobody wants to see him. Everybody's tired of him. His Twitter game has not helped him any, between picking fights with Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay, fans.
It's not his fault that he's a Chicago Bears fan, is it? The Bears are really bad. That's half on them.
Hey, you're speaking with Chicago Bears.
I was going to say that
are they bad or not?
They might be. That might be one. At least he likes football sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's been. I mean, he has not had a good 2 or 3 months, has he?
No, he hasn't, and I do think it is comparable to Roman Reigns from the standpoint that, Seth is not the cool guy anymore, and a lot of that, it's not his fault from the standpoint of he's doing his job, and they're giving him promos to do, and they're putting him in these storylines, and putting him against the Fiend Bray Wyatt has not been easy from a standpoint of, people want to root for Bray because they like, when he brings to the table, it's something different. They like the funhouse segments and whatnot. So there's that. And then the whole, Seth being, afraid of him, and even some of the promos that he has done, talking about Bray have not gone well, just because of the wording. Now, you can also say from Seth's standpoint, if you don't think it's good, go to them, because you've got enough stroke, and say, hey, this isn't good. We've got to come up with something different. But there's also that mentality of, hey, if I'm going to be a leader, I've got to try to not complain, make the most out of these situations that I have, and this is what they want me to do, and I'm going to do it. So, and that's the way that Roman has always looked at things. And I think he rarely will shoot anything down, and tries to do exactly what they want. And there's pros and cons both ways from that. But there's just something that's going on with Seth over the last few months that, he's just not the cool guy that he once was. I think it's a little bit tough from him as a baby face. I thought that Seth was better as the kind of smarky heel, and before he suffered his knee injury a couple of years ago, I mean, that's where he really was on fire and was probably doing his best work with the company. But since he's come back, they put him as a baby face, and we see what's going on lately. And, there's more and more people I think are just tired of the way that we see Seth booked. We're tired of Seth, firing back at fans, which I get it. I get the frustration. There's always going to be plenty of, haters on social media. But, the way that he kind of describes a lot of things is he puts a lot of emphasis on, fans don't get it. Fans don't understand this. Fans don't understand that. Rather than saying something as simple as, I get your frustrations, and, trying to be a little bit more empathetic. And he doesn't do that.
Yeah. I don't know. And that's the thing. I don't know if a heel turn would help him, or if it would, like when Triple H came, they did the thing with him and Triple H, and then here comes Adam Cole and the rest of the Undisputed Era. I got to be honest, I was actively rooting for Seth to say, yeah, I'm going to NXT. But I don't know if that would help him much. I don't know what would rehabilitate his image right now.
What would rehabilitate him probably is if he stayed off Twitter and if he was gone for 2 months. Because the best way to get over a lot of times is just be gone and come back. Because, once you are gone for a while and you come back, you can be the hot guy once again. People will forget about some of the other little things. And if you're a big enough name and if they put you in a hot angle right off the get-go or in a good spot, then, you can once again be that hot act. But Seth's not taking any time off, and WWE doesn't want him taking time off.
True, and that's also a lot of ifs, because we can look at Rusev, for example, who came back, crowd's loving it, and then he gets stuck in this horrible angle about Lana all over again.
I've never heard the word cuckold so much in wrestling talk in my life.
I'm sure we did, like 1998.
I'm not sure I even knew what it meant in 1998. But yeah, you may be right. Maybe it's just have him take a 2-month vacation and stay off. Yes, he needs to stay off Twitter, for the love of God. And utilize WWE's whole "we don't recognize the competition" thing, because that has been disastrous for him. Between picking Twitter fights with Will Ospreay and then with Kenny Omega, it's like, come on, Seth.
But
please.
Wait, let me ask you.
The way that I look at it too is, though, and I could be dead wrong about this, but I'm just looking at from my perspective, is that I think that Seth looks at himself as a locker room leader, and he probably is, because of his tenure there, just his position, everything that goes into it. I know Roman definitely is one. I'm sure Seth very much looks at himself as one, and I'm sure other people in the locker room look at him as one of the leaders of that locker room as well. But because of that, I think he feels it's part of his responsibility in making sure he's a locker room leader is standing up for that locker room. And when people are complaining about WWE and the booking and storylines and different things like that, I think Seth, like I said, I could be dead wrong about this, but from my perspective, I think Seth looks at that and says, well, I need to speak out because I'm a locker room leader. And because I'm going to stand up for everybody. And I don't know if that's necessary, because I think there's going to be some other people that probably share in that frustrations. I'm sure there's plenty of other times as well where people are like, what is everybody, griping about? People got to chill out a little bit more. And you're trying to do your best work out there. So I'm sure it's very frustrating when you see a lot of backlash on social media and people are saying, I don't like WWE, I don't like the segment, I don't know what they're doing. And you're sitting going, wait, I don't think it's that bad because I'm working my butt off here and people are complaining about it. So I get that, but I think sometimes, social media is what it is. And I think you just have to let people get their frustrations out to some extent, whether that's right or wrong. But you're in a no-win situation a lot of ways when you do that. And I think it's come back to bite Seth a little bit. And this is coming from me where, I mean, I'm about as big of a Seth Rollins fan as you will find. And I've always been a big advocate of Seth and enjoyed his work. And, I thought for a couple of years, especially before like that knee injury, that he was, one of, if not the best all-around talent for that company when it comes to what he can do in the ring and promos and everything. And to see this happen, it's a little befuddling with what they've done with Seth. And it's frustrating for everybody. I think it's frustrating for him, and I think it's frustrating for viewers.
Yeah, I'm frustrated for him because even after the injury, and I know that he mentioned on Twitter and people gave him a big backlash on the fact that he said that he felt that he is, if not one of, if the best in the world at what he does. I think he can easily lay claim to that because of the work schedule the WWE has, how his in-ring style differs. I know it's not the strong style, but he's also working more dates with a very high-risk style as it is. The guy jumps out of the ring like 3 times each match. And then I'm with you, Brian. I don't understand. I can get it if you don't like the guy, but what he brought in the ring, even last night, I mean, suplex, or I'm sorry, well, what is it? Off the top rope suplex into the Falcon Arrow. I mean, amazing spot, great maneuvers, and the crowd was dead silent, dead. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what else does the guy have to give you?
Yeah, that crowd was pretty dead, most of the night. But yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, the guy goes out there and he busts his hump, and that whole mentality of where he goes out there and says, "Hey, I'm the best in the world. Why don't you come here and do what I do?" Now, I will look at this. Okay, he is a professional athlete, and as we all know, whether you agree or not, with what professional athletes say when they're saying things about themselves, part of a reason why a professional athlete is as good as they are, no matter the sport, is because they have an ego. It's because they are driven. Okay. So I give guys a little bit of leeway about that, because what's he supposed to say? Like, I don't think I'm the best in the world, or, hey, I think they're a better promotion over there. It's like the same guy. Like, I always love the reporter that goes up to somebody and go, "Hey, so next week you got a big game. Who do you think's going to win?" What are they supposed to say? "Oh, I think they're going to win because we're not that good."
Right.
Like, of course they're going to say, "Well, we're going to win." Everybody acts like that's bulletin board material. I'm like, no, it's not. It's somebody having confidence in themselves, and that's part of the game. I mean, there is a line, I think, when it comes to having an ego and being cocky and everything about it. But Seth is going to make his comments and he's going to stand by it. And if somebody wants to take shots at him about it, I think he can live with that. But it's the other things that when it comes to the overall company, where he wants to defend him because he works there, but there's some things where maybe it needs to lay low about a little bit, because, like I said, it's kind of a no-win situation.
It really is. It really is. And you're right. Look, any professional athlete believes they're the best. That you want to hear that from them. That's, that's part of their makeup. But it's the whole getting into spats and everything, as you said. It serves nobody's purpose except just riles up, internet fans, and then you get into spats, and it just makes you look little. It makes you look small. And I think for some people, I mean, the way that they perceive Seth Rollins right now is like, this guy, he's just a company shill, and he's going out there, he's doing these bad promos, and look at what they've got him in this goofy storyline or whatever it's going to be. And it's just like, he's not the cool guy right now. Yeah.
And you can see how quickly your perception can be changed when it comes to the way fans look at you, especially in today's day and age of social media and coverage and pulling back the curtain when it comes to the wrestling business. There's so many different things where one day you're hot and the next day you're not.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You really are.
But you're right. They're not going to take him off the road anytime soon. So it seems like the logical thing to be done is to make him turn heel, because he's always been a better heel than he has been babyface.
But I think if you're going to turn him heel, and I agree with that, it can't be just a reactionary thing. It needs to be something that is played out in storyline fashion where it makes sense. And I think there's definitely a way to do that right now, especially with them losing the championship and everything. It's just whether or not they will do that.
Yeah, I felt that this would be the best time.
Yeah, I'm not exactly going to hold my breath that WWE does it right.
Well, I was going to ask, who's the next challenger for the title? Do you remove him from the title chase already and then let him try to undertake this heel turn? Because it sounds like with all the ammunition that's been given, the fans, the Twitter spats, you can easily just be like Chris Jericho-like in the sense where it's like, oh, you guys used to love me, now you hate me, so guess what? I hate you. And that will be his heel turn. It'll be as simple as that.
It could be. I mean, and a lot of times the
it's working for
ones
Bayley.
are the ones that work the best.
Yeah.
It's working.
It's natural.
That's what Bayley's doing right now. So.
Natural things always go the best.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about that for a second, because we talked on there about so Bray Wyatt, the current Universal Champion, Brock Lesnar, WWE Champion. We know Rey Mysterio is going to face Brock at Survivor Series. We pretty much figure out Brock's probably going to keep the title because they're not going to just rip it off of him so soon. So who's next for Brock Lesnar? And I assume this would be probably Royal Rumble.
I don't know. I mean, are they going to go? It depends on what brand he's going to be on. I mean, first and foremost, like, is he going to be Raw or is he going to go back to SmackDown?
Well, the way they portray it, he's now a Raw guy
Right,
because
so
Bray Wyatt's on SmackDown.
Could they go Seth?
Man, if you put Seth and Brock again, I think the crowd's going to turn on that match faster than they turned on Roman Triple H at WrestleMania 32.
Because I'm just not sure what direction they go in when it comes to Brock. I don't even know what they're going to do with Bray Wyatt.
Oh, there's. I don't know, and that's something Justin and I were talking about a couple of weeks ago. Let's fast forward to WrestleMania in Tampa. Do you see a main event that could be formulated now? Do you, from what we are seeing right now on both brands, do you see a main event that would be worthy of being the main event at WrestleMania?
Yes, Becky Lynch against Ronda Rousey.
Yes,
right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean that's
Becky
if
Lynch in any match, pretty much.
That's if Ronda Rousey comes back, which I don't think. I'll be honest, I don't think she's coming back. I think
I do. I think she'll
do?
be back in time for the Rumble. Yes.
Okay, so let's go men's. What men's match? Do we have an idea?
Not really. If I had to guess for the two men's matches for the two championships, I would say Brock Lesnar against Cain Velasquez, and I would say Bray Wyatt against Roman Reigns.
I mean,
what about the NXT title? Watch that be the main event. Watch it be Finn Balor against some other person.
Finn Balor, Adam Cole.
All right, or Finn Balor against Matt Riddle. I think by then.
Possible.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, well, here's the thing too. I mean, we're going to see this as well coming up here with Survivor Series, because the night before Survivor Series, we're getting a takeover. NXT is having their own show,
right?
But then NXT talent is going to be featured as a part of Survivor Series, as well. So, by the way, are we waiting for the tagline that everybody just loves so much to get thrown at us time and time and time again, where we get to hear the announcers say Survivor Series, that one time a year where the superstars of Raw square off against the superstars of SmackDown
and the superstars of NXT. You got to add that in now.
But okay, so remind me, when did this phenomenon of SmackDown is just Raw versus SmackDown? When did this horse crap begin? Was it like 2-3 years ago?
With the brand splits, because they can't figure out anything else to do with Survivor Series, but they understand it's one of their big four, so they're going to keep booking it, and they just decided that for 1 month a year, we're going to throw all of our storylines out the window for the sake of brand loyalty. Even though none of these people
don't care about their brand, Guys switch brands left and right, whether they get drafted somewhere, they get traded somewhere, or they just show up for no freaking apparent reason because they put some crap rule in there for a wild card, which they're not doing right now. But, I mean, why can't we just nobody cares about the brand loyalty. And trust me, talent standing out there for a match wearing a freaking red Raw shirt or a blue SmackDown shirt looks stupid.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So can't we just build something in storyline to where it's 4 versus 4? I mean, come on. If you want to put NXT talent on there, I get it. But I'm curious what this is going to be for NXT going forward, in that I assume, and we've seen a little bit of this already, but we're going to see NXT talent on the Royal Rumble, maybe a little bit more than we've seen in the past.
True.
But where do they fit in when it comes to WrestleMania if they're doing a takeover the night before, which they flat out are doing a takeover the night before WrestleMania. It's already been announced.
Right. Isn't that War Games?
No. Well, that's for Survivor Series, but I'm talking about
no. I mean,
WrestleMania.
but the okay. Well, I mean, but yeah, NXT takeover before Survivor Series. That's War Games, right?
Yeah, that is War Games. But even for WrestleMania, I mean, they're setting this precedent that they're going to put NXT talent on major WWE pay-per-views. Like, they're going to be doing takeover the night before WrestleMania in April. So, how are you going to spread the NXT talent around, like saying, okay, well, we want to put this match on the takeover, but what are we going to do for Mania? They're going to be juggling a couple of things there, I think. But yeah, for Survivor Series, though, we're definitely seeing NXT talent up and down Survivor Series. But the night before, they're doing War Games. They're doing a takeover. I mean, we could see Cole defending his championship against somebody. We're going to see that War Games match with the women. So it's going to be an interesting kind of a balancing act that they're going to do here with the NXT talent, which I kind of look at and say, don't oversaturate them, because guess what? They're the one thing that WWE has right now where people are not saying, I don't like this. People still like NXT a lot, but if you start cramming it down everybody's throat a lot, it's going to kill that loyalty.
Oh yeah, it'll kill the brand. Forget Wednesday nights. They'll send everybody watching Dynamite. So, let me get your thoughts on AEW so far, 5 weeks in.
I think it's been really good. I mean, you can see them kind of settling in to a rhythm a little bit now, where they're building up for their pay-per-views. They've never really hot-shotted anything. Obviously, the first couple of weeks they wanted to put some major matches on there. Their formula is similar to WWE in some ways when it comes to some of the matches that they're going to do, especially like you're looking for this Wednesday, like they're doing Jericho and Sammy Guevara against Adam Page and Pac, and you go, why is Guevara in that match? Well, he's part of Jericho's faction, but somebody's got to lose that match, and he sure seems like the fall guy in it. Yeah. So I get that formula. The biggest difference to me, though, is they've kept the storylines very simple. They've kept them in a fashion that are understandable. They care about details. They're trying to have synergy from week to week, or continuity. So from that standpoint, I love it.
Yeah. I saw the latest NWA Power. I'm from that era, so I'm loving every minute of this. What's your
I dig it.
What's your take? What's your take on Billy Corgan bringing studio wrestling to YouTube?
It's so much different from everything else, and it is such a throwback that, I mean, you're not going to get like the best wrestling matches, but for what it's supposed to be, it all works. And I think, Nick Aldis has really, shown how big of a star he is, like in this format. I mean, Nick is, when it comes to playing the role as a champion, speaking, everything he's done from that standpoint, I think Nick has really upped his game and really shown his value. It might not be for everybody when it comes to the show, but it is so much different from everything else we're seeing out there. I think the question now is going to be, how long can they sustain this? Because Billy Corgan has been very upfront, going, "Hey man, if I don't get a TV deal or if I don't start making money off this ain't going to last forever, because I can't be paying for this out of my own pocket, for a long period of time because I'll be losing money.
Right.
So we'll see if somebody wants to step up, and it doesn't have to be a ton of money, but it has to be enough to where they can do this show and probably bring in some more talent. And of course, they'd like to get a different platform for it as well, a bigger one. And so that's a big question mark. But I mean, for being something totally different and outside the box, and finding an audience of people that are of your age and my age and grew up watching that and have some nostalgia, it's worked.
I agree. It has worked, and I hope that they can find a platform where this can be widely seen because of. And you're right. We're not seeing the wrestling is so different because it is it's old school. It's a lot of ground base. You don't see a lot of off the top rope stuff. You don't see the successive topes or whatever. But it's just good, fundamental, simple wrestling storytelling. Good guy versus bad guy.
Well, let me ask you this though, because I think Justin, you're younger than Stu and I.
Yeah.
Do you watch the NWA show and do you like it?
Yeah, I really do. I like it a lot. The one I still have the same caveat where I would really like them to use entrance music. I understand what they're going for. But other than that, I think it's a fantastic product, especially for what they fit into an hour. Like you get your squash, you're going to have a feud match, and then usually have a title on the line at the very end. And it works out pretty well. And it looks like they have a really nice roster of up-and-coming talent. A lot of old guys like Trevor Murdoch. I didn't even know that he was still wrestling. That was amazing to see him back in the ring and still doing his thing, and he still looked good. So it's been fun. It's like I don't know who's going to show up next, but I have to admit
the promos have been great. I think. I mean, just to see everybody kind of like unleashed, with their promos and just kind of the simple storylines of why they're feuding with somebody, why they have a problem with somebody, and what they want to do about it.
Well, Eli Drake has been phenomenal on the mic. I really underrated him. He's really good. He really makes you tune into that show. But I was going to say, I agree with you. Aldis, I mean, my God, he has just transformed himself into this miraculous champion. Like, he is the face of the NWA. I couldn't imagine another person holding that belt right now. He is fantastic in that role.
And I might be a little biased just because he's one of our hometown guys, but Ricky Starks has really shown himself to be a star on that show. I mean, Justin and I are lucky enough we get to see him every couple months at Inspire Pro here in Austin. Hell, he lives right down the road from me. But to get to see what he can do on that platform, I mean, that's the Ricky Starks we know, but now everybody else is realizing what a talent he is. So we're just thrilled for him. So finally, Ring of Honor. I mean, it's there was a time when Ring of Honor probably could have been considered number 2, number 3 promotion in the U.S., depending on what week, Impact Wrestling was, doing, whatever. Now, everything I see from them, outside of this announcement about them being, they're going to starting this Friday. They're going to be on the Fox Sports regional sports networks that Sinclair bought. But that just seems like a last-ditch effort to make Ring of Honor relative. And I hate saying that because they've got some good talent, but it just seems like the way they've booked that show and they just have not recovered from losing the Elite and those guys. And it just seems to be circling the drain.
It does. And I guess the thing that I would look at for Ring of Honor, it's like there's so much good wrestling that's out there. How does Ring of Honor stand out when, that's always been their forte, but we see plenty of great wrestling all over the place. I mean, you can see great wrestling matches in AEW, or you see it in New Japan. You see it in, over in the UK. You see it from WWE from time to time, maybe probably on their pay-per-views, maybe not necessarily on TV sometimes, but
they give it to us on SmackDown.
Yeah, the NXT takeovers. I mean, those become, can't miss shows because of the level of wrestling on those. So, where does Ring of Honor stand out when it comes to all this? I mean, look at what they do on TV. There's been nothing that stands out on their TV shows. I think they've done a very poor job for the last year or so when it comes to TV, building up to their pay-per-views and making them feel like must-see events. Like even this week, I mean, there was a clip going around, online where, they're doing like a joke match. Cole Cabana and Ian Riccaboni, who's the play-by-play guy. Ian's doing moves. And
Todd
whatnot.
Sinclair was hitting the ring, and I think they were trying to
Todd
get
hit a leapfrog, and Ian hit a top rope elbow.
I think they were trying to
cleanly.
They wanted to get Gary Jester on the in the ring.
Right, but that match is on the go-home episode of their TV going to their next pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on here? We saw some pictures recently of a show that they did. I don't know why they were doing a show on a Sunday, but it looked like there was less than 100 people there.
Yeah. Well, they canceled the 2 shows here in Texas.
Right. I mean, the cool factor is gone from Ring of Honor right now. They really need an influx of different talent. There's a stink on them all over the place. We saw Joey Mercury,
I was just
who was with the company, go off.
Yeah, I was just about
Greg Joland, who's the basically is the number 2 guy there with Ring of Honor. He's their GM, and just talking about how incompetent this guy is at his job, and nobody likes him. And there's been vibes about that going on for a while, but to see somebody, say what you will about Joey, because he was pretty, off tilt there, going on a rant on Twitter. But, he left the company, quit because he was frustrated with Greg and different things that were going on there. And I think he was frustrated with some other stuff as well that's going on there when it comes to booking and his role being on there. But one of his main reasons why he left the company is because he didn't like or respect Greg. And it sure sounds like a lot of people feel the same way. They just haven't been as vocal about it. But we know that he has at least one advocate, and that's Joe Koff, and that's the owner of the company.
Yeah, I mean he's the man. So as long as Joe's happy, it's gonna go. The other thing with them is it really does seem they at one time had working relationships with New Japan, CMLL, NWA, I think one other. It seems like all those are gone. You haven't heard word one about anything, any type of booking anybody with any of those. We know the NWA thing, they decided to go on their own, but looks like the CMLL thing is over. The New Japan thing, New Japan's doing their own stuff. They're
coming to the U.S. They're coming here.
Yeah.
They're invading.
They are running shows in the same buildings that Ring of Honor's run shows in.
Yeah. I mean, it just seems like those relationships are gone, and if those are gone, you're right. Ring of Honor, there's nothing to distinguish them. I mean, that was part of what made Ring of Honor cool, was the fact they had the agreement and they could work with New Japan and CMLL.
I don't know about you all, but I get like those mad AWA vibes from Ring of Honor right now.
A little bit.
I mean, look at it. I mean, the whole WWE roster is basically the diamond period of ROH, just like it was back in the 1980s when they took all of AWA stars.
And I don't even know what talent they could bring in, because I'm not saying that they have to turn over their entire roster, but they need some fresh talent, and they obviously need some new hot storylines. I mean,
but where's the talent going to come from? And what's up with their dojos? I thought they had these dojos in place to find talent. I saw a guy like Ricky Starks. He was in those dojo matches, wasn't he? They had that ROH online
or the Future of Honor, Future of Honor,
and I don't even know who won that. And if that person did win it, is he even featured on ROH? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, and you've got some contracts that are coming up here. I mean, PCO's contract is coming up. I think he's going to stay.
The Tate twins left, the boys.
Yeah, the Bandito's contract's coming up. I would assume he's going to stay, but I don't know that for a fact. Marty Scurll's contract is coming up. That's been a big, people have been talking about that going back for a year, about what he is going to do, because all of his buddies from Bullet Club are in AEW. I think he's staying. It sounds like he is staying. I don't think he's going to WWE. I don't know what the interest level is there. I'm sure there's some interest, but I don't know if they really want to shell out the money he can make elsewhere. I think AEW is interested in him, but I've said this for a little while, I think he's going to stay in Ring of Honor. And I've had a couple of people scoff at me about that, but I think that's where it's going to end up, is he's going to stay with that company.
He almost seems like he wants to stay there for no other reason, trying to make himself the top guy, make the name for himself, and he figures the way to do that is to stick it out with Ring of Honor and try to rehabilitate.
Wait. But that's the whole plan all along. Why didn't he win the title?
There's a lot of questions about that because, okay, when you go back to earlier in this year, when Ring of Honor did the show at Madison Square Garden, there was questions about whether Marty was even going to be in that match when they did a triple threat match between himself and Taven and Jay Lethal for the title that obviously Taven won and became champion. There were questions about putting Marty in that match. There was plenty of questions about who was going to win the title that night. I think that most people behind the scenes of Ring of Honor were convinced going into that show that Marty was going to be leaving the company later in the year when his contract came up. So there was no way they're going to put the title on. There was a couple people I think that were cool about putting the title on him, but I think most people said there's no way Marty's winning this because we are convinced this dude is gone. Like he's going, and it was going to AEW. Like he's out of here. He ain't staying. But I think a lot of that has changed since then because I think that he's kind of looked at the landscape and says, I'm comfortable here. If they make me a very competitive offer with the schedule that I have, I'd be happy to stay here. I could be positioned as a top guy here. And I think now, obviously, if he does sign, then, they can pull the trigger on making him the top guy. But is Marty as hot as he was 6 months ago? A year? Can they rehab him? Can they build or rebuild Ring of Honor around the Marty Scurll on the top? I think we're about to find out.
Yeah, we have to find out. I mean, because I don't think he's any worse off than anybody else on the roster.
But then it's just poor management at that juncture because it's like a playoff team going into the playoff hunt. It's like, yeah, okay, so that guy might only be on your team for the playoff race, but does he give you the best chance to survive? To go on to win? Yeah, so you take a chance. You take the flyer. They needed to have taken that chance on him, regardless if he was going to leave or not, because you would have at least gotten the 5 to 6 months and stamped on him when he was red hot, because that's the last time I recall talking about Ring of Honor in a serious manner on this show was at that juncture, and Villain Club. Villain Enterprises was hot then.
You're right, and Villain Enterprises was something that Marty insisted that he do because he came off Bullet Club, and I think a lot of people thought like, okay, well now Bullet Club is no more, and Cody and the Bucks are all gone from Ring of Honor. Marty will stand out as a singles guy, or stand alone, on his own. But he wanted to have another faction. He's the one that insisted, let's do a group again, and that's why they said, okay, we'll let you do it. We'll do Villain Enterprises. And remember, originally there was a couple other people that were involved in it, and they're gone. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, it's him and PCO and Brody King. So they appeased him in that way. And I do agree that, like, hey, if he's hot and you're at that MSG show, put the title on him. And if you don't think he's going to stick around, then you could take the title off of him later, and it would mean something for somebody to beat him for the title. Exactly. But they just didn't feel that way. They just felt like, hey, do we really want to make this guy the champion at our biggest show of the year when he has no loyalty to us? He's not going to be sticking around. In the meantime, Matt Taven is a guy that's gone above and beyond. He's busting his hump. He's a polarizing person when it comes to our fan base, but he's been here for a while, and he is working hard. So let's give him, the title. Now, here's the thing with that, though. We all know you can work hard, and it's great that you are doing that. But if you're not the right guy at the right time, then what's the point of doing it? And I think you're like me, Stu, in that we both like Matt Taven a lot when it comes to both personally and professionally. But his championship run did not go well.
No, it didn't. And I think part of that may have been this downturn for Ring of Honor. I know we've kept you for a while, so I'm gonna end with this.
Wait, I have to know now.
Okay,
but so if somebody beats Matt Taven, does it mean anything to anybody now?
Well, he's already been beat.
I know he has, but after that now, is it going to be one of these? What's the guy who won it for the WWE? Nobody expected him to win. I'm sorry,
Jack Swagger.
No, not him. The Indian fellow.
Oh, Jinder Mahal.
Oh, Jinder.
I was going to say Canadian Indian, but yes. Yes.
So
is this like a Jinder Mahal thing at this point with Matt Taven? Because I felt that his work was a little bit more appreciated by the fan base, but then the title run came, and then everybody kind of crapped on it.
Right, and I think he was just put in a different position to carry everything. Well, once you're going on last, that's a whole different ball of wax. Now, they're trying to turn a babyface. Now we'll see how this goes. I think he's still going to be one of their featured guys.
Yeah.
Roosh is a champion, but who is Roosh going to feud with? I mean, it looks like PCO is going to be coming up here. How many people are going to buy into that? I mean, I'll say this flat out. I mean, I give PCO a ton of credit. That dude's 51, 52 years old, whatever he is. And he's out there and he's working hard.
He's taking some bumps I would never, ever take in my career.
Right.
I'll tell you the truth, man.
But you know what? For me, and I don't know if a lot of other people are like this, I think there's some, I'm not a big PCO fan because I just I don't like the gimmick that much. And like that dude just going out there and you just take one vicious bump per match.
It is a little one-dimensional.
I've seen this time and time again.
It's totally understandable because that same mentality carries over to a character like Orange Cassidy. Either you like it or you don't.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Do you have any opinions on that?
I'll leave you. I'll leave you with this. So you think about Ring of Honor. Did the shenanigans and everything, and you and I were there. Did the shenanigans that Ring of Honor pulled at MSG, did that hurt their deal with New Japan?
No, I don't think it did. I think what hurt their deal with, I think New Japan looked at that Madison Square Garden show and said, hey, when it's all said and done, what's everybody talking about? They're talking about how great we looked and how pedestrian Ring of Honor looked. And I think they've always been looking to expand into the United States more. And they said, hey, we're coming off this hot MSG show where people are talking about us and how great we did. So let's go forward and do some shows, on our own in the United States and not just ones out in the West Coast. Let's do some on the East Coast and we can do them in Ring of Honor buildings and just kind of slowly but surely pulled away from Ring of Honor. I mean, they're still kind of partners with them, but it's a very loose partnership at this point, and they just kind of used them as a way to springboard their own platform and their growth in the United States. And I think this has been their plan all along. It's not like they're doing huge shows here, but that's what they wanted to do. I mean, hey, Ring of Honor. I'm sorry, but man, they. I get it that they wanted to work with New Japan, and I think it's been a very good partnership with them. But look at what's happened with that company over the last year. They basically got used by the guys who, had Ring of Honor, helped them do All In, which springboarded AEW, and then they're like, oh, wait, what? You guys are doing your own promotion? I'm like, yeah, dude, they just freaking used you.
Uh-huh.
Ring of Honor did all the production for that show and everything. It's just like, bye-bye. Our contracts are up in there in December. See ya. Oh, we're starting our own promotion. It's going to be bigger and better than yours. Bye-bye. And then, New Japan, what have they done lately? Hey, man, this has been a great partnership. No, we don't want to do a joint show. Guess what? We're going to run our own show with our own talent in the building that you typically run in. So what's going on here with Ring of Honor?
Yeah. Just seems like they're being left in the dust. So
well, yeah, but that has to come from the back room, and it seems like somebody that's supposed to take care of contracts and shake all the hands and kiss all the babies has some bad breath or something.
Ring of Honor right now.
That comes down to two people. Then that comes down to Greg Jolan, the general manager, and it comes down to the owner of the company, Joe Koff.
Yeah, you're right. All right, Brian Fritz. You can follow him on Twitter at Brian Fritz. Read his stuff at sportingnews.com. Brian, as always, thanks so much, my friend. All the best to you. Sounds like you and I are going to be together in Miami, so we will at least have to chop it up some there and share a drink or a meal or something. So
I'll let you buy me a drink in Miami, no problem.
Sounds good. All right, my friend. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
So a whole lot more good stuff from Brian Fritz.
Yeah, I'm glad that he was able to stick around.
Yeah, glad he was able to do the podcast only segment with us. So, and again, follow him at Brian Fritz, sportingnews.com. He's as knowledgeable as any of them, and he's level headed. He won't steer you wrong.
And he kind of sounds like Tony Schiavone.
A little bit.
Yeah, so he has a little bit of Schiavone on him.
A little bit. When we come back from this timeout, AEW has a pay-per-view this weekend. We'll get into Full Gear next on Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn.
Super Kick Party!
This is Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, and you're listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. One sweet me. Holly, break it down.
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn. Stu Myrick, Justin the Smash Simmons. Young Bucks are going to be busy this week because AEW, besides having Dynamite, which, if you're listening to us on the Horn, is happening right now or may have just wrapped up from Charlotte, North Carolina. But they're then going to head to Baltimore for AEW Full Gear this Saturday. The pre-show starts at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. Main card at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Get it on pay-per-view and Bleacher Report Live here in the U.S. And if you're listening to us from beyond the U.S., I think Fight.tv's got it internationally. ITV box office in the UK and Ireland. So check it out on that. The card so far, and again, we have to, there may have been matches added tonight, but Chris Jericho defending the AEW World Championship against the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. I don't think they're going to take the title off of Jericho. I would think they're going to keep it on him. They have done a lot for this match. Last week on Dynamite, they broke Dustin's arm.
Yeah, I saw that.
The
cast.
Yeah, he's but something tells me they're going to keep the title on him because they're going to ride this Inner Circle thing.
Well, he has
a little
the
bit
faction.
longer.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's got the Inner Circle, so I think he's going to stay world champion for a little bit longer.
It's kind of like, is it funny that I already think that AEW has ethos and they've only been around for like 6 shows, but it seems, and we kind of talked about with Brian earlier in the show, that AEW cares about continuity.
Well, you're right. They
so
do.
So they want this faction to mean something. It would seem that Jericho should have a nice long run, and the team members within that faction, his stablemates, should also see success.
Yeah,
as they continue going forward.
Yeah, I think you're right. Hangman Adam Page and Pac in the rubber match. I think they're 1-1-1. I think they've had a draw. Hangman's won, Pac's won, so now they get the rubber match, I guess. That's the way to put it.
What's the term I'm looking for? The actual wrestling term? The payoff?
Blow-off.
The blow-off.
This is the blow-off to the feud.
Yes. There you go. Thank you.
I wonder if there's going to be any type of stipulation or if it's just going to be, Hangman doing cowboy stuff. I won't say the real word because we're on the radio. And Pac doing Pac stuff.
Yeah. That's what I assume it would be, if anything. It just really depends because it is a pay-per-view. You expect them to take it up a different level, but I'm not sure what to expect from an AEW pay-per-view. I'm assuming it's going to be just like All In and All In 2, where it's the most zany of the zany, off-the-wall possibilities, and some people putting themselves into some real danger off of some crazy stipulations.
Yeah, and again, we don't know the rest of the card. We've got I've got 5 matches so far. One of those will be on the buy-in. On the main card, Young Bucks versus Proud and Powerful. I guess that's what they're going to call Santana and Ortiz now. Kind of a meeting of two of the best tag teams, at least in 2019, and probably two of the best tag teams in the last 5 years.
But yeah, I do agree with that. But do the Bucks basically have to wrestle every tag team that appears on AEW just to justify that tag team being there? That's what it kind of seems like. That's what it feels like.
It feels a little like that.
Because it really feels like, hey, you guys don't know these tag teams, but they're going to wrestle the Young Bucks, and they're probably going to win. So that way, you take them seriously.
I would hope people would know Santana Ortiz.
I would too, but it's not guaranteed though. I mean, Impact had no real viewership during that time.
True.
And the only reason we really even saw them
attack the Rock and Roll Express. How dare they?
Well, that too. But the only reason we really got a chance to see them, and I really started noticing them more, is because they were wrestling in Texas a couple of times. Came to Inspire Pro, and that's what made me kind of go back and look up their run. And it's like, oh, they've had a great run. Nobody's watched them. Yeah,
you're right.
Because they were on Impact back when it was on Pop. Who knows?
Yeah, so one of those channels. Kenny Omega, Jon Moxley in a lights out unsanctioned match. And I do like, again, old school guy, I like the touch of turning the lights off and then back on. Now, you know what?
I have no clue what you're talking about.
Oh, you don't know about that? Okay, so way back in the day, and I remember this, and I've been told this. So this is when they would have a match that is unsanctioned. So it was not sanctioned by the NWA or World Class or Mid-South or AWA.
Commission, whatever.
So what they would do is they would turn the lights off as if saying this is the end of the show, and then they bring them back up. That way it's separate. So I like the fact that that's why they call it a lights out match.
Oh, okay.
It's another term for unsanctioned.
Gotcha.
So did you like the touch? Did you see on Dynamite last week? It started with Moxley going into the office with Tony Khan, and Tony Khan telling him, look, we want this match, but we can't sanction it because of what you two may do to each other. And Moxley's going off, and he says, okay, well, his blood's on your hands then, or whatever. Did you like that touch? Because I did. I thought that was really neat.
I see where you're getting at, but it's just like I try to kind of just look at wrestling all in its own little bubble of just. I'm always still so confused, man. It's like, when am I supposed to take this super seriously, and when am I supposed to think it's a joke? And I see what they're trying to do, like they're trying to blur that line, but at the same token, this is professional wrestling. So why do I need any other added stipulation to a feud which should be settled in the ring anyways? Like that's where my mind is sometimes, because I understand that it's trying to add to the severity of it, but I'm just all like, when Goldust was having his feud and Roddy Piper had to step in, that was a Hollywood backlot Raw, totally out of left field, something that was major, something I could see being unsanctioned.
Right.
But I'm like, if they're just going to meet in the ring and they're going to beat each other senseless, it's like the term unsanctioned really doesn't do anything extra for me.
And it'll be interesting to see what they do with this. If weapons are introduced, tables, whatever, I would suspect they are, especially with Jon Moxley.
Yeah, like I have to admit, I was one of those guys that never really saw the original Jon Moxley work, and I'm not a big fan of the hardcore style for the most part, especially deathmatch. Hardcore, I understand, it has its time and place, but the deathmatch style I've just never been a big fan of. So what Moxley is trying to bring, I guess I'm just not. I'm not the audience for it, essentially.
Right. I get it.
But I love the fact that they work hard, and they're trying new things, and that they're a true competitor to what the WWE brings, and it's brought a lot of new fans to the genre, and it's brought back a lot of old fans that got tired of the WWE go around.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens, but it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how these two clash. We've seen a couple of times, but it'll be interesting to see how it clashes this time with the whole unsanctioned stipulation. That's AEW Full Gear this Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central for the main card pre-show. The buy-in is 1 hour earlier. Buy-in will include Britt Baker and B. Priestley in a match. You can see that on pay-per-view and Bleacher Report Live here in the U.S. If you're outside the U.S., Fight.tv, or in UK and Ireland, ITV box office. Before we get out of this segment, huge congratulations to the Latin heartthrob Gino. Made his debut this past Saturday on MLW Super Fight pay-per-view, defeating Airwolf.
Oh, you mean Gino Hernandez?
No, not Gino. No, the Latin heartthrob Gino.
Isn't that the last name they gave him?
No.
What's his last name on the show?
I forget his last name.
That's why I was like, I think they gave him Hernandez as his last name.
No, they didn't call him Hernandez. I hope they didn't. I don't think they did. And also to the new MLW World Tag Team Champions, Ross and Marshall Von Erich, defeating your boy MJF and Richard Holiday from the Dynasty. Ross and Marshall, Tag Team Champions, just like Kevin and Kerry back in the day.
I forgot. They call him El Intocable, which means the untouchable.
That's right.
And he's Gino Medina now.
Medina. That's
there
his last
go.
name. Yeah, that's right. Anyway, congratulations, Ross and Marshall. Couldn't be prouder of you. When we come back from this timeout, we'll let you know what's happening in independent wrestling around the area. You're listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling, and you're listening to The Horn, where Austin talks wrestling.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Everybody!
This is the American Psycho Lance Hoyt, and you are listening to the Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Everybody
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on The Horn, Stu Myrick, Justin Smash Simmons.
You know, I'm glad that you used Lance's intro because it's just a good reminder to everybody. Don't ever really give up because remember, that guy had back surgery not too long ago,
Yes.
and we were kind of questioning like how his career was going to fare after the breakup of his tag team.
Right.
And now he's the U.S. champion in New Japan.
He is the IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion. He will be defending that title. I believe it's Saturday in San Jose against David Finlay when NJPW hits the West Coast this weekend.
Yeah, so how exciting for him, man, that he's got to have like
Man, it
this
could
renaissance in his career, especially now that he's a little bit, up in the age bracket now. He's getting closer to that 40, I believe.
Are you calling him old?
Not calling him old to his face,
Lance,
that's
that
for
was
sure.
Justin. That was Justin. Just so you know, that was Justin, not me. I would never call you old because I'm older than you anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're happy for Lance. So, catch that. I think that show is on is going to be live on NJPWWorld.com. So, our good friend Kevin Kelly and his crew will be handling commentary duties for that. So, meanwhile, back here in Texas, we got some independent wrestling happening around here. We got to let you know all about that. We will start Friday night in San Antonio. Cactus League Wrestling, outfit out of Arizona. They're going to come to San Antonio with Battle of the Alamo Friday at the Southside Expo Hall in San Antonio. Bell time 7:30 p.m. The Lucha Brothers will be there. Killer Cross will be there. And the IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion, Lance Hoyt, will be there. So catch Cactus League Wrestling this Friday in San Antonio.
Now that's a stacked show.
That is a stacked show. Reality of Wrestling presents the Rise to Wrestling Royalty this Saturday at Booker T's World Gym Arena in Texas City. Bell time 7 p.m. It's their TV taping, so you know Ruthless Ryan Davidson will be there. Will All Day, Alex Grazia, Unholy Isaiah James, Hyon, and more. That's Reality of Wrestling this Saturday in Texas City. Lions Pride Sports presents Here to Stay. It's their second anniversary. Saturday at Smitty K's in College Station. Bell time is 8 p.m. Houston Carson will come out of retirement.
No way.
To face his cousin Cade.
This is awesome.
Plus, Tim Storm, Godzilla Jax Dane, 2 former NWA World Heavyweight Champions will be there. Barrett Brown, Mike Dell, and Nobi Bryant, plus more. That's Lions Pride Sports this Saturday in College Station. And then Sword Championship Wrestling presents the Gotti Effect Saturday at Dallas Elks Lodge. Bell time 7:30 p.m. Dean Fleming, Lou Gotti, Starrett, Mr. B, and more. That is Sword Championship Wrestling this Saturday in Dallas. And that's a look to independent wrestling around the area. Make sure you go see one of those shows. I think I may be heading to College Station to see the Texas Lion come out of retirement.
Yeah, I would love to.
Not to mention see our good friends and the former NWA World Champions, Tim Storm and Jack Stane.
Well, and I know he's not the world champion, but former NWA title holder in Barrett Brown.
World junior heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
That's right.
He wasn't the 10 pounds of gold, but I mean, best in his weight class.
He is, and he was the last one.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes.
He kind of still is.
Yeah,
So,
he's kind of like
he's defending. In fact, he's going to wrestle Jax, and Barrett is defending something called the King of Texas belt.
Yeah.
So should be interesting.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I'm happy for Carson. I know it was his birthday just a couple of days ago, so I heard he got some new ring equipment. So
happy
it should be
belated birthday to the Texas Lion.
That second anniversary show should have a different look to it.
It should. What do you got going this weekend?
Well, if people have some time, there's some pro boxing going on in the Alamo Dome at the Illusion Theater in San Antonio on Saturday. I believe bell time is 6 p.m. But I'll be working those fights. I won't be speaking Spanish, but it will appear on Univision in the San Antonio market.
Okay.
So that will be my Saturday night, basically.
By the way, before I forget, good luck to our good friend Thunder Rosa.
Yeah.
Who'll be making her MMA debut, I think it's Saturday.
Friday night.
Friday night with Combate Americas in San Antonio. So we are sending all of our best to Thunder Rosa.
I'm not laughing at her. I'm laughing because I read a tweet from her earlier today. She says she went to go watch a movie, and she's like, it's so hard to cut weight and then smell that popcorn. I was like, yeah, I can just imagine. Yeah, but good luck to her because I know she's putting in a lot of work.
She really
and
has.
after getting her debut today on NWA, so much going on.
She was on the episode of NWA Power that debuted. This weekend, let's see, Friday night, Lake Travis wraps up the regular season against Anderson from Historic House Park in downtown Austin. Lake Travis has clinched at least a share of the 25-6A district championship. Assuming they win, they will be the district champions. They're the number one seed for the district in D1. So that game will be at 7:30 p.m. pregame, 7:15 with Mark Honig, Bucky Godbolt in the booth. I will be on the sidelines. You can hear that on the Horn 104.9. Saturday, 2:30 p.m., the Longhorns return home to DKR. They will face the purple curse that is Kansas State. That game kicks off at 2:30 p.m. That means pregame starts at 10:30 across the Austin Radio Network. You'll have Aaron and Rod from the Texas Tail Garden at Schultz Beer Garden, and then Chad and Bucky from Bevo Boulevard as we get ready for the Wildcats. So that'll do it for this week, Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. You can follow Justin the Smash Simmons on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at The Smash Simmons. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Stu Myrick. That's STEWMYRICK. You can follow the show on Twitter at SGTWATX. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. We are proud to be the official broadcast partner of the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, and we're proud to be part of the great lineup you hear every day on the flagship station for the Texas Longhorns and your radio home in Austin for the Dallas Cowboys. We are the Horn. Catch us Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Central on the Horn, or you can catch us anytime on demand by going to hornfm.com and click on the On Air tab, or by subscribing to us on your favorite podcast platform. Our thanks to Brian Fritz from the Sporting News for joining us, and our thanks to you for giving us a little bit of your time tonight. For Justin, I'm Stu. We will see you at the matches.